Greetings, 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 everyone. Steve, Paracords of Kindness. How you doing today? Hopefully your weavings have been happy. Okay, I think the last video I put on the channel, or one of the most recent ones, it may not be actually the last one, but it's one of the more recent ones, was how to do an Iron Man by Cetus 550. And it was kind of a shallow cut, about a 20-25 minute video, just showing you the overs and unders and how to tighten up the knot, and that's basically it. And, you know, the one I showed, it's got stitching on it. And I mentioned in that video, I said, I'm not going to do the stitching. I said, but I had somebody request, and, you know, I was going to do it anyway. But I went ahead, I thought, you know what, I need to do the follow-up video. So, that's what I'm going to show you today. How to stitch an Iron Man. And there's some example. What is this? This is gold and burgundy diamonds, rust, and it's got the gold stitching. And the one we're going to be doing today is this one, which is stealth olive, the darker color, and then olive drab, and the stitching is holy guacamole. But all we're going to do this one is the stitching. I'm going to show you how to do the stitching. So, with that said, if you want to know, stick around, and I'll show you how I stitch an Iron Man. Okay, folks, we set up. Going to show you how to stitch the Iron Man. I did a video one day last week. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's the last video I put on the channel of, you know, how to make the Iron Man. And it was just a quick, shallow cut of how, just the overs and the unders and the basic how to tighten it up. I figured I would follow that up. I did have someone request, but I figured I would follow it up with how to do the stitching. Now, the stitching on this one, it's not too difficult. It can be a little tough to get that needle to go through, because it's one of these where you've got multiple cords and you're having to go partially through the bracelet, then you got to kick it at an angle to get it to go up under one of the other cords. Makes sense? You can't just run it straight through. So it does take a little finesse to get it to do right. But the bonus is one side, it pretty much goes straight through. The other side, you have to kind of finagle it. So, you know, you're going to have some patience. I'm going to go ahead and give you a warning. You're going to have some patience on this one, and it will take you a little while. But it will look outstanding. And I'll show you this one I've done up close. Here, let me bring this light over here. Maybe this will help. But this one, if you can see it, is rust, and then this is gold with burgundy diamonds. And I've done the stitching pattern that we're going to do today is done in gold. It just zigzags back and forth down the center. And like a lot of these Cetus weaves, this Iron Man is a Cetus weave. You can often do this zigzag stitch on a lot of his designs. Now, like all of them, it takes some time and it takes some patience to do it, but it looks good. If you pick the right colors, it'll look great. But with all that said, if you don't know how to do the Iron Man, I'll put the link for that in the description and in the cards. Okay, we'll get started. Let's see. This bracelet I made for a 7 3/4 inch wrist. Okay. So I've cut me a piece of micro cord that's 7 feet long. That's probably going to be a little bit more than we need, but as always, I would rather have enough to be able to finish the entire project than to get down close to the bottom and realize I don't have enough. Makes sense? Because I've said it before, this cord does not cost that much money. You see what I'm saying? People are so afraid of wasting the cord. Well, you got to break some eggs to make an omelet. That's just the way it is. But I would rather, me personally, I would rather have, you know, scrap left over in the end and be able to finish the project than to, you know, get down and go, oh man, I should have cut one more foot on that. And therefore, I always overestimate. So if you watch my videos and you do my measurements, sometimes you'll go, my goodness, man, he way overestimated. Yeah, but you're not going to go wrong. You're not going to run out. But with all that said, I'm going to show you how to start this. I've already got the bracelet made, and as always, the 2 tips on stitching, I'll give you this. When you go, and you, like this one's back, this is the accent color. It just kind of threads through the cow hitches up here. But just cut and burn it. Don't do your final cut and burn. Do your rough cut and burn. That way you got a little piece sticking out. Because if you cut and burn it right here on the thing, that piece of burnt plastic may be in the way of where you're trying to run your needle through, right? So I always do that. I always leave about an inch and a half, 2 inches, and I burn the end of it. That way it doesn't fray. You know, it keeps it kind of neat while you're doing it, even though you're going to come back and cut that off. And the same thing on the bottom. You know, I got them all, and for those who watch my videos, you know that I am going to, no matter what, my cords will always end on the back of the bracelet. The non-display side. Keyword, non-display side. You're not going to see me with a cut and burn on the side or the display, or the top or the sides. It's always going to be on the back. And if possible, it's not always possible, I will try to get them all in the same space. That way when I go to cut and burn, all of them melt together into one big piece of melted plastic. And that way there's no chance that any one of the individual burns, through wear and tear over time, can work itself back out. You know, unweave itself, if you will. But if you put them all together, and when you do the burn, you let them burn for a minute, and all that plastic will melt together into one lump. There's no way that's going to come unwoven, right? Okay, that's your first tip. Second tip, when you make a bracelet and you know you're going to stitch it, if you're like me, I pull these things as tight as humanly possible, if the knot allows for it. Some knots don't allow you to do that. If you pull it real tight, it will distort or capsize the knot, meaning it will flip the knot in on itself, and it will no longer be the same knot, right? But if it's one that you can pull it as tight, real tight, I will pull it as tight as I can. But, big but if I know I'm going to stitch it, I do not pull it as tight as I normally would. Why? That way it's easier to get the needle through there. Now this one I may have pulled it a little tighter than I should have, but that's okay. I can get this done. But with all that said, there's your 2 tips. Leave you a little slack and burn the end, a little excess, right? And then don't pull it as tight. Right? And you think, well, I want my bracelets tight. I understand. But I'm telling you, once you run all this, you think, oh, it's just a piece of microcord. Yeah, but it goes through here about 30 or 40 times. And it adds up and it tightens itself up as you go. Okay? But with all that said, let's get this started and I'll show you how to do this. Okay. Like I said, I'll show you this one so you can see the goal we're going for. You see how it stitches. It just zigs and zags, zigs and zags, zigs and zags. Now here's the part. If you look, I'll show you this, just so we can see this, so you get an understanding of what we're going to do here. Okay, first off, it starts right here on this side of the bracelet. It comes up and then it angles like this. Okay, so right here, let me zoom in a little bit. Actually, let me see if I can zoom in. And maybe this will be a little easier to see. But it comes up through the bracelet right here. And it goes back down through the bracelet right here in this area. Right? And then it comes back from the back side of the bracelet back up through right here. So basically, if you look, where the 2 pieces meet on this side, one's going down through the bracelet and the other one's coming back. And it's the same thing on this side. The one that's closest to the buckle is the one going down through the bracelet, and the one closer toward this direction is the one coming up through the bracelet. And they're basically coming through the same spot. So, in order to keep it from pulling through when you go to tighten it up, you have to wrap it around something on the back side. Makes sense? Now, I'll flip it over and you'll see. It alternates It just wraps around this one piece and goes back through basically the same hole. And then it, you do the zig or the zag, whichever the case may be, and then it comes out on the other side and it wraps around that piece and it goes back. You see what I'm saying? So, like I say, you see how many times you do this. It takes a little time to do it, and then the fact that it's kind of difficult to get it to go through there, you're just going to have to be patient with this one. Okay, but with all that said, I'm going to show you this. Maybe you can see it on here. Let's see if you can see this on here, so you get the idea. Yeah. Let me see. Can you see it on this one a little bit better because it doesn't have the stitching? Here, let me get this light up here. I want you to see what's going on. Yeah, you can kind of see it. Hopefully this will make sense. When you make one of these, while I'm sitting here explaining this, look at the back side of it. Look at yours, because the lighting here is probably not the best, but it'll make sense if you've got one in front of you. If you look, you see how these pieces that are running down the middle, they're all running like this, okay? If you look, like this one right here, it's coming from this side, and then it's going down through there, right? Well, the one right up under it is coming from this side and running down. You see what I'm saying? So basically what you have is they alternate. You have them coming from this side, going around those core strands, and then you have them coming from this side, going around the core strands, and they all alternate, right? So what we're doing, basically, is it wraps around the one that's on that side. And when you drop down to do the next one, it wraps around the one on this side that comes from that side. That's what you're wrapping around. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm trying to get a mental picture in your mind so you can understand this, and it'll make it a little easier as to where you need to come out and go back through the bracelet. But with all that said, let's just get started, and I can show you this. Hopefully this will work. And being that we've got a whole bunch of cord, like I said, I cut a piece right at about 7 feet. So you're going to have a whole lot of stuff. That way your work area, get whatever on your work area, get everything out of the way. That way you don't get your microcords wrapped around something and knock over your coffee cup or your cup of water or your energy drink or whatever it is you got. Just, be mindful. You got a lot of cord. Okay, so what we're going to do. First off, we're going to start. Let's see. Let me look at it. Okay, on mine, since I'm going to come out on this side of the bracelet first, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to run this angle. So what we're going to do is we're going to run up under these two little doodads, just like this cord is. But since I'm going this direction, I'm going to run it on this side as opposed to over here. Make sense? Okay. So we're just going to go up under them two, just like this piece right here is. We're going to run up under them two. See? I'm going to push it through there. Get a hold of it. I always say this, kind of flatten it back out with your thumb or whatever. That way it creates a little resistance. So when you go to pull it through, you don't get to the end and you pull it all the way through and you have to do this part again. That just... And considering you've got a whole bunch of cord, you're gonna be dealing with twists, a whole bunch of twists as you do. That's another thing that's just gonna make it, it takes some time. Just be, as I say, you've heard me say it 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,000 before. Mindful of your twist. Be mindful of your twist. Okay, so right here, this first part to start this off is pretty easy. If you look, you can see right here, there's a hole, there's a gap right there. That's where we're gonna run through, right? Over to that side, right? Bam. We see that? Now, I'll reach back here. I'm gonna hold my thumb on that piece, and I'm gonna just kind of pull all this excess stuff. All right. Okay. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna run it. We're just going to follow this groove. That's all we're doing. We're just following this groove right here. And it's going to go through right there. So basically it's just gonna zig and zag all the way down following that groove. But every time we go through the bracelet, we got to wrap around one of those pieces on the back, and then we come through basically in the same spot. Right? Now, this is what I was saying, how it can be a little difficult. This part of going through the bracelet this way, let me make sure I'm going to tell you this right. This, when you go from the display side to the non-display side, that's usually the one that's no problem. You can get it through there. It's when you're coming from the non-display side back to the display side, or the back of the bracelet to the front. That's where the tricky, and you got to get the angle comes in, okay? But what we're going to do, we're just going to run it right here in this area. Below this little piece that you got coming, you see all these little pieces right here? It's going to go below that piece, right in this area. And we're going to come out, if you look, this very top arm right here. It goes all the way to this side of the bracelet. So we're going to come out below it right here in this area. And we're going to wrap over and go down through there. And come back out in that. Oops, sorry, out of frame. You'll see. But we're going to go through right here. Like I said, this part, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, this is the part you can do. And it'll go, see, it goes right through there. And it comes out because it's pretty much a straight shot. Now, I hold it up here so you can see kind of the angle I've got. Now, if you don't pull your knot as tight as me or whatever, the angle might be slightly different. But like the front is pretty much go straight through, but it does have a little bit of an angle on it. But it'll go through there. You're not having to fight around cords. You're just having to find a little opening. It goes right through. So we're going to push it through. Pulling through our excess. Ooh, be mindful of the twists. See how we got all them twists? Mindful of the twists. There's our first one. Okay, now, over here on the back side, like I said, what we're going to do, we come out here, we're going to go through, we're going to wrap around this rib, if you will, coming off that spine piece, right? We're going to go up toward the top of the buckle where we started our weave, and we're going to go through there. And we're going to come out basically in the same spot. Now, I'm attention to detail. Sometimes this needle, when it comes through, it will want to come through down here on this side, basically below. When I say below, I'm talking about back to this way. Below the piece of stitching you've already done, or it will want to come out above, up here on this side, right? Doesn't matter which way you do it. But I will do it consistently. Every single one of them. That way it will look better. It's the little things like that, attention to detail. Some bracelets, that little bit of it makes a big difference when you actually look at it. But I'm going to come out on the top side up here. That's normally the way I do these bracelets. Okay? So we're going to run it through, like I say, right here, above this little spin, right through here. Now you see where I want to come out. You see I already have to get an angle on it to get it to come out right down here. But you got to run it into the bracelet a little bit, then you got to put the angle on it to get it to go down there. So you're going in and then down. And this is the side that kind of makes it a little tricky because of that. You push it through there. Yeah, there it is. You see what I'm saying? You see how it's kind of, I know it looks like it's actually on the side, but it is, the needle, the tip of that needle is toward the top in relation to that other piece of microcord, more so than it is the bottom. Like I said, on this bracelet, it's not that big of a deal. But, just, we want to maintain consistency. Alright, and now we just push it through. And we just pull our excess through. Now we're going to repeat that in mirror image on the other side. And then we're going to come back to this side. And we're going to just do it however many times it takes to get to the end. Like I say, it takes just some patience. Don't get frustrated, because you're going to get to some of these knots and you're going to do like 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're going to go easy. And then you're going to get to one and you're like, man, I can't get through here, and you'll get frustrated. Just take a breath, slow down, and work with it. Right? Make sure you don't have a twist in it. Right? And just give it a little snug. Okay, now over here, we're going to do the same thing. And when you get right here, this is where I'll pull this. You put enough force on it, it'll tighten up that piece you can see on the front. Right? Now it's just tightened up. Everything from here all the way around to the back is just snugged it all up. Now, all we're going to do here is we're just going to follow this groove over, and we're going to go through right here. And we're going to come out on the back, but on this one, we're going to come out on the other side, basically one rib down. If you want to call it, we'll label these as ribs. Just one rib down, but it's going to come over here on the bottom side where that rib is going over to this side. Kind of basically where we started our anchor at, right? That's the general area. And like I said, this one going from the front side, from the front side toward the back, or the display side to the non-display side, this is the easy one. This one usually goes through there pretty easy. See, that one usually goes through there pretty easy. You don't have to fight it too hard. Like I said, there's a little bit of an angle you got to get going on it to get it to go through there, but it'll go through there pretty easy. And we pull our excess through, mindful of all those twists. Alright, see how it just kind of seats down in that next groove? Okay, now on the back side, all we're going to do, we're going to do like we did before. We're below the rib piece, we're going to go up above this rib piece. Right through there. Okay? And we're going to come out in that same general area where we ran through. But we got to kind of get that angle on it. If I can get it to... Yep, there it is right there. We see that. I'll let you see. You can see the angle I got. See the back of it, it goes pretty much straight down. I mean, it's got a little bit of an angle to the side. But see, like I said, depending on the way you've woven this thing together, you know, pulled it tight, not pulled it tight, or whatever, it might be slightly different. But this is the one where you got to kind of run it in straight a little bit, get it a little bit into the bracelet. And if you feel just a little bit, you can feel them cords in there, and you'll have to go up under one. There's one you have to go under, and you'll feel it, and you'll have to just whoop, get it at an angle, and it'll pop through. And then you just pull it through. And that's it. That's all there is to it. I've done both sides, one side and the other side. And they're the same. They're just mirror images. Mindful of our twist. Always be mindful of our twist. Here's something I've kind of learned to do. Put my thumb in there. That way as I'm pulling, I can kind of spin this microcord down here to get that twist out before I pull it. Right? Now, to right here, this is where we're going to pull it, and it's going to snug up that piece. Now, I know you probably won't be able to see this on camera, but watch that piece right there. The one that's running at that angle when I pull this. Yeah, he probably didn't see that, but it snugs it up. Now we're just going to repeat this process. we're going to follow that groove and go through right here. And again, this one is the one from the front to the back, is usually the one that goes through pretty straight. You don't have to fight anything. You just make sure when you come out, you're coming out below that rib, because it skips. I'll show you again so you can see this. See, it skips. It skips one. Like I said, if you look, every one of these is where it's coming out. That's because that rib piece is going over to that side. So you're just wrapping around it. But you come out up underneath it and you wrap up toward the top. See what I'm saying? You're skipping every other one. See, if you look at it, how this one, and it goes over to here, then it goes over to here, then it goes over to here, back and forth, back and forth. But that's one reason you have such a long piece of microcord, because it's done in all one stitch. Now imagine, I guess you could, no, see, I tried that. I tried to figure out a way to do it where you could do two pieces, and I was like, you know what, just do it in one. So that's the way I've done it. If you come up with a different way, go right ahead. Okay, so we're going to back to this. We're going to follow that angle and go right through there. Like I see, this is the one that's kind of easy. Bam. See how easy that is? It went through there. That was pretty easy. Pull it through your excess, mindful of your twist. See, go ahead and loop it around my thumb. That way when I get close to the end, if there's any twists in it, I'll see them before I actually pull it down. See, because you don't want a twist in this little piece that's running across here. I noticed those things. Some people, I don't know if they don't notice it or they don't care, but I'll see it and there'll be a twist right there. It's not very noticeable, but it can be seen to the, the trained eye, if you will. Not that I'm trained or anything. Right? Now, we're going to go, we're coming out here. We're going to go above that little rib, and we're going to go through here. And again, this is the one that we kind of got to go in and then angle it down just slightly. Because you can see right here is where we're going to come out. You can see where I'm going in. It's closer up here. And to where I want to come out, it's down this direction. So we'll have to get that angle on it, right? But you got to go in the bracelet just a little bit, then do it. We go in. Not much. I know you can't see that, but I can feel that. It goes in just a little bit, and it hits. Boop, it hits a dang cord. There's a cord in there, and it goes in, and it hits it, and you have to go up under it. You shouldn't think you go in, you have to angle it to go up under it. Yeah, I think that was it right there. Yep, that's it. I can see it. And I know it looks like it's below that piece, but it's not. It's not. It's coming out above it. Like I said, how you got the angle piece and the one that's coming through, I want it up toward the top, not the bottom. I know you can't see that very well, but it is coming out above it. But you see again, the angle. It goes in straight just a little bit, and then you angle it. Angle it down. Yeah, that's pretty tight right there. And when you pull it through, I don't have any twists in that one. So we'll pull it through. When we get it to right here, this is where we snug it up. And it'll tighten up that angle piece we just did. Okay. Now, I'll show you this one more time. You just follow the groove across. We'll go through. And again, this is the one that's usually the pretty easy, going from the front to the back. It's usually pretty straightforward. You usually get it to go through, no problem. Bam. Right through there. And again, we'll pull it through. So that twist. Alright. Now, we flip it over. And again, I know it's kind of hard to see. There's a rib piece right here that we've skipped. Kind of hard to see on here because we got this little excess dangly piece, but that's all right. But you see, I come out below the one that's running to this side. Then we're going to go over it and through right here above it. Bam! I felt it go through. I feel myself hitting that cord. Now I'm going to kind of angle it down. I think that was it. Yep. Now look, if you look, you can see right here. You see that angle piece running that way? You see the tip of my needle is coming below. I don't want it there. I want it above it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach up here, back it out just a little bit, and kind of use my fingernail and just kind of move it just a little bit, and I'll bend the back of that needle. That way it'll get an angle on it, and it'll come out above it. Does that make sense? That's it. It takes a little patience to do this. Yeah, I think I may have. I'm going to confirm I pulled this too tight when I weaved it, but that's all right. See how I'm struggling trying to get it to go through this because I pulled it real tight. That's all right. That's all right. It just makes it a little harder. Takes a little longer to do it, but you know, in the end, you know you're going to have a tight bracelet. What I always say, neat, clean, and tight. Okay, now, we see that? We're going to pull that tight. It's going to tighten that up. We're going to follow the groove again. Going to run it right here and go through right here. And again, front to back. This is usually the easy one. We're going to come out below the rib that goes to that side, push it through, pull out our excess. Mindful of the twist. See how I got my thumb up here? That's something I just started recently doing. A little thing I picked up. I was like, hold it up and you can see the twist before it gets there. Because what I hate is when there's a twist and you're pulling it and you see it, but your mind doesn't register. Stop pulling. Get the twist out, and you pull it and you got a twist there. So right here I can see it, and I'll pull it slow, and I won't pull all the way through. I'll make sure, and then I'll go ahead and pull it. Okay. Now again, we're going to go. That rib piece is going toward that side, so we're going to go from below that rib piece up here. See how we're alternating on the rib pieces? You can see it better on that side than you can over here. But from below the rib to above the rib. Now we're going to go through just a little bit. Bam! I feel it hitting that other cord now. I got to get that angle on it. I think that was it. Yep. And again, it's coming out. The needle is coming out below the piece of stitching I just did, which I don't want that way. I want it to come out on top. So I'm going to pull it back out. Kind of angle it if I can get it to do. All right. Now, here's the tip. Here's the tip. This is what you can do. This is why you don't pull it, that angle piece so tight. What you can do is you can come back. Ooh, you can come back and get up under this one, that piece of micro cord. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I don't want. I've already got the needle going through where I want it to, and I don't want to struggle with that again. I've already done that work. Let's not undo it and then have to redo it. Right? Just leave it in there. But you take this and pull you some slack in it if you don't have enough, and then you can bend it down, and that'll allow you to go. You see how I've got my needle's coming out above it as opposed to below it. Make sense? Yeah, I pulled that bracelet too tight. I can tell. I'm struggling trying to get that to go through there. I don't know if y'all can hear that sound. It's the friction. The cord against the shaft of that needle it's pulled pretty tight, but that's all right. It'll just take me a little longer to do all this. And then when you get here, make sure you don't have no twist. And when you get to right here, this is where you tighten it up. This is so that little bit of slack I got right there. I'm gonna tighten it up. You'll be able to see it here. Watch. You see how I tightened it up? Now we just do it again. I'll do this one more time. we'll be done. We'll follow it across. We'll go through it. Uh-oh. Follow it across. We go through. Front to back's usually the easy one. Usually goes right through there. Pulling their excess out. Little thumb technique I got going on there. See how it's not that the thumb gets the twists out, it just allows you to see them so you don't have a twist in it and pull it through. You see that, okay, there's no twist. Right? Don't pull it so tight because of what happened on the last one. We should learn. Don't pull this one tight, yeah? Okay, now again, we come out below that rib piece. We're going to go up above that rib piece, and we're going to go through. We're going to run it straight through. I feel myself hitting that other cord, kick that angle on it. See how that one went through pretty easy. Now, it's tight. Once you get past the tapered part of your needle to the thick part of the needle, yeah, it got tight on me right there. But that's it. That's all there is to this one. I mean, it takes, like I said, you got to be mindful of that one, go through, and then get the angle on it. But it's not, if you just, turn you on some music or whatever, don't turn on something that's going to distract you so you can't concentrate. But turn you on something, and just kind of get in the zone and stitch away. But there we go. Now you just run it all the way to the end. Now when you get to the end, it's going to be a little bit different depending on how you finished your bracelet, right? And sometimes, when you try to get down to the end, you try to get all them cords to go through me. I always try to get them to go through to the backside, or they do go through to the backside. And that, a lot of times that causes the very end of my bracelet to be really tight. All them cords are really tight and compacted right there. So the end of it, for me, is a little difficult to get it to go through there just because everything's so tight. But you just follow that pattern down all the way to the very last zig or zag, whichever you want to call it, and you go through, and basically you come out the back side and you just run it up under just like the other three cords. You run it up under there. But I'll stitch this out, and once I get down to the end, I'll come back and I'll just show you, how I finish it off, and we'll show you a finished product. Like I said, this one's not made for my wrist, so I can't do the quote-unquote trial by fire, fit it right there on camera. But I will come back. Let me get that out of the way. I will come back, and I'll show you how I finish it. We'll do a cut and our burns, and we'll have us a finished, stitched Iron Man. But with that, stick around. I'll be back in just a second. Okay, folks, I'm back. I got stitched out to the end except for the very last one. And like I said, I'd come back and I'd show you just do it, cut and burn. And normally I'd do the quote-unquote trial by fire. If it was for my wrist, we'd put it on, see if it fit. This was not for me, so we'll use the sizing manual like you've seen me do in the past. I started off, I told you that it was for a wrist that was 7 3/4 of an inch. And I told you I cut about 7 feet of micro cord. And you see I've got right at 2 feet left over. So, that's a significant amount. So, take into consideration, like I've said though, I'd rather have this 2 feet and be able to finish it than to not have enough and not be able to finish it. You see what I'm saying? So, just take into consideration, this is for a 7 3/4 inch wrist. So if you're making it for a smaller wrist or a larger wrist, you can adjust appropriately. But anyway, let's just get this done. We'll get this done and we'll be done. And let's see. I'll say this too. When I was doing up here in the first section of the video, and I told you, I said, I think I may have pulled this thing too tight, and it's going to take me. Yeah, it took me. I noticed as I was going down through there, it took me a little bit longer because it was real tight. It was tighter. I shouldn't have pulled the initial weaving of the bracelet as tight as I did. But that's okay. I mean, I got it done, and it just equates to a tight bracelet. And like I said, neat, clean, and tight. It's definitely tight. All right. all we do is, on this last one, we just run through basically like you're doing. However you've ended the thing, I just took that last piece of that dark green, and I ran it right through the center, in between the 2 core strands on either side, right down through the center. And I'm going to just follow it right there, down through there. And it's going to come out. It should come out right here on the back side below. Yeah. Here, let me zoom in just a little bit. Maybe it'll make it a little easier to see. Just the light. But you see where this piece running this direction. I've got the 3 going up under it. That's all I'm going to do with this. I'm going to just, if I can get it through there, because like I said, it's kind of tight. Sometimes when it's real tight like that, I'll put it down on the table and push it through. Mindful of the twist, mindful of the twist. Don't want to have a great stitching job and then the last one have a big old twisted knot on it. There we go. Just kind of snug it down a little bit. Now, this right here's tight too. So I'm going to just run it back up under there the way the other ones are. If I can get it, yeah, it's just going to go, yeah. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. Even though I'm about to cut it off, still going to do that. I still do it. It's just a habit, I always melt the end of your cord. Alright, let me put this down here in my scrap bucket, which I set yesterday. For those who follow me on social media, you notice I haven't posted anything in 2 or 3 days. It's because I've been out here cleaning my shop up. I won't go into all the details, but I went through all my scrap and put it over. I've got the small buckets next to me that I throw things in. And then when they start getting full, I take them and I got bigger containers that I put them in. And I go through it and, you know, shorter pieces, longer pieces, you know. I separate my microcord, the solid color 550 and the multicolor 550, 3 different things. And black, I got one for black because I go through a lot of black, but I got it all separated. And I did that yesterday, and I'm expanding some storage space in my shop. That's what I've been doing. I've been out here doing things in the shop as opposed to making bracelets. But all we're going to do is just cut them, burn them, and we're going to be done with this one. But before we cut and burn, let's make sure, as always, let's make sure everything looks good. And so you don't have to worry so much about it here. Let's see if we can't get this a little tighter. This piece of 550. But always make sure everything looks good before you cut and burn. Because once you do, once you cut it, you don't even have to burn it. Once you cut it, it's pretty hard to get it to do it. Now, we're going to take this thing. We can see them. And just the nature of this weave, you got to be careful not to burn the cords of the actual bracelet. So this can be kind of tricky on this one. What I tend to do is kind of bend it back on itself and get the flame at an angle going upwards. Now I'm going to do this. Hopefully I can do this. Now we're going to do the same thing over here. And again, it's the same way. It's just the nature of the way the back side of this bracelet is. It can be a little difficult to burn these and not get the bracelet. So just be very mindful of that, you know. I'm going to leave these a little bit longer so they'll stick out a little bit more than that last one. That way I'll have... See what I'm saying? Now you got your 3 pieces of 550, and you can see the brighter one is that micro. They're all together. And like I say, I'm gonna melt them all, and it's all, once they start melting, I'm not gonna just hit it and be done. I'm gonna let it sit there and let them all melt, and they'll all kind of form into one big lump. That's the way I do this. And if I can, I'm gonna use the stamp. My leather stamp, still a heart shape on it. Paracords of kindness. If that little piece of melted, that burn mark's big enough, I'll use it. I can. Now let's see if we can do this without burning everything else. Yeah, I ain't gonna be able to put the leather stamp on that one. It's not very big, and trying to put the flame back on it. Yeah. Make sure it's smooth, because you know that's gonna be on the inside of your wrist and sensitive. Sensitive area. You don't want a little hard piece of plastic, a burr or a teat. You don't want it digging on your wrist. Let's see if I can't. Smooth that right there out just a little bit more. Oh yeah, that'll work. Okay, there we go. Now let's just see. What'd I say? 7 3/4 inch wrist. I got my sizing manual over here. If anybody never seen one of these here, we'll back it out so we can see. What this thing actually is, I've mentioned this before in quite a few of my videos, and I've showed it. I got it off of Amazon. A friend told me about it. It's just it's a solid piece of wood. It's not hollow. It's a solid piece of wood. Now I put the marks on. I had to measure this, put it on there. What it's actually meant for is like stretching metal bracelets. You can put a metal bracelet on here, and then with like a soft mallet hammer type thing, you can, and it'll push it down and stretch it. Okay, well. You size it, and that way, once you get done, it doesn't help you size the bracelet, but in my case, it helps me build the confidence to know that I made that bracelet correctly, and it's sized right before I send it off to a customer, because this one is for a customer. But, and then, you know, you take a picture of it on here, and you can send it to the customer so they can see that it's the size they requested. Makes sense? But what do we say, 7 3/4 inches? Go ahead and bend it, get it kind of shaped, clip it on there. There's a 7 inch mark, 8 inch mark. Looks like that's about a 7 1/4 inch wrist to me. Now I'll say this. This come up in one of the groups the other day. Gentleman, friend of mine, he said he had made a bracelet. I don't know what kind it was. What was? I think it was a Sanctified Endless Falls, I believe is what it was. And he said he had made it a little big. He said, I made it, once I went to put it on, it was a little big. And one of the other gentlemen suggested, put it in boiling water, boil you some water, drop it in there for about, 15, 20 seconds, and then pull it out and just let it sit and dry overnight. And that's going to cause it to shrink up. And it does. It will cause it to shrink up. And the man said, I did that. He said, now it's too small. He said it shrank too much. And I told him, I said, what you do, I said, you can take a tapered object, sturdy. Let me reemphasize that. Sturdy. Do not try this on a cup made out of glass, because you may shatter it, and that we don't want that. But a sturdy something, I have used this before to do what I'm going to show you. I've got a hard plastic cup, which can work at times. but it's got to be tapered. It's narrow and it gets fat, and you just put it on there. So will it go on this cup? Yeah, it'll go down over the top of that cup, and you take it and you just you push it down on there, and it'll stretch it out, and you just let it sit there for a day, and you come back and it'll be stretched out a little bit. I've made a few bracelets that I've sized incorrectly, especially when I'm first trying to weave and I've never done it before. I'm not quite sure, you know, you do it and you're like, it's a little small. I'll stick it on this thing and push it down as much as I can. Now, if you're using plastic buckles, which I don't use plastic buckles, every now and then I do, but if you're using a plastic buckle and you try it, you push it down there, that plastic buckle is going to pop open. It's not necessarily going to break. It may break, but not necessarily break. But you put enough downward force and try to stretch it, it's going to give at the weakest point, it being that plastic buckle, right? Like I said, I use metal buckles, so these things don't do that. But you can push it down on there and push and push and push, and I think it'll stretch itself out. And like I said, like I said, leave it on there for a day or so, and you know, it'll stretch it out. And I've even done this before. There are a few bracelets that I made that are too small, but I'll put them on there and I'll force it down on there and I'll leave it on there. When I'm not wearing it, it stays on that thing. Not this thing. I've got some other stuff over there, you know, like this. But I've got bracelets on them. That way, when I actually want to wear it, it's already on that mandrel being stretched, and I can take it off because it will kind of, you know, want to go back to its normal size. Does that make sense? But anyway, there's your little tip. I think I mentioned that in one of the last videos. But anyway, with that said, there we go. That's a stitched Iron Man right there, and this turned out pretty daggone good. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned it in the first part of the video. What we got going on here, the darker is the Stealth Olive, which I use quite often. The color right here, the lighter color running down either side, is Olive Drab, and then the middle is Holy Guacamole. It's a little bit lighter than the Moss. It's just maybe a shade lighter than the Moss, and that's a no color I got. So I figured I would use it because it falls into that, you know, that area of colors or whatever. But there you go. That's how I stitch a Iron Man bracelet. And with that, I'll end it like I end them all. Keep it neat, keep it clean, and keep it tight. Happy weaving, folks.